Ben McCullum, the top candidate for West Virginia basketball, according to many, is going to be Iowa's next coach, according to multiple reports. Where does West Virginia go from here?
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host, and this is Locked On West Virginia. And my cat is jumping onto a table, like one of those chairs like that you can that you can spin in and just going in circles over and over. She keeps on running, jumping on it, and letting that momentum carry her around in a circle. So that was kind of funny. So sorry, caught me off guard. West Virginia obviously wanted to hire Ben McCullum. That is not going to be the case. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, guys, and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. Brought to you by none other than who are we bringing this to you by today? That cat completely caught me off guard there. Game Time. Today's episode is going to be brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So, multiple reports have Ben McCullum going to Iowa. Let's see if we can figure out exactly who's reporting it. Let's see. I just saw that 247 Sports had it. Yeah, so you got College Basketball Report, you've got 247 Sports, you've got Barstool Iowa, you've got every Iowa person imaginable putting this up as little as some 30 seconds ago. So, and 247 definitely locks that in. I'll be honest. Not surprised. After things had developed the way they had over the last couple of days, I was expecting this. I thought Ren Baker was playing from behind. West Virginia got in on the search late because of Darren DeVries and the way he left us in the dust like he did. He could have left the day after the season was over. But anyway, either way, it's really has nothing to do with DeVries. I'm just still mad at him. So Ben McCollum chose home over a little more prestige, a little more money, right? I think Iowa and West Virginia I would consider them similar jobs. If Iowa had the NIL money that West Virginia has, it would certainly be similar. At this point in time, West Virginia has much better history, been to more Final Fours, been to more Sweet 16s and all that, way more. But Iowa can compete and win in this era. I don't think that's a big shock to anybody. And it sounds like they're going to support him. So if that's the case, if he's the guy they needed to get on board, kind of like a Bob Huggins hire for them or whatever, even though it's not really the same, it's sort of the same because he's from Iowa, coming home. You get the donors, all that kind of stuff in kind of in the same spot, agreeing on the same thing, and you try to make it happen. But where does that leave West Virginia? Because this is a swing and a miss for Ren Baker and company. We all know Ren Baker had a lot to do with Ben McCollum at the last job he had before Drake at Northwest Missouri State. Sometimes I get that part wrong, either Northeast or Northwest Missouri State, whichever one it was, and the 4 national championships. And he was there from 2010 to 2013 before North Texas pulled him away. Then obviously he hired Grant McCasland, who is top 7 or 8 coach in the country. We know that. And then, okay, how about you got to go to West Virginia where you've got to make 17 hires, and he's knocked every one of those out of the park. Even Dawn Plitzowite was good in her first year, and even though she hasn't replicated that at Minnesota, she was good in her first year at West Virginia. Mark Kellogg's going to turn out to be the best women's coach in history, and that's saying something considering who we had right before him. He hired Darren DeVries, who went straight to Indiana. He hired obviously Rich Rod back, and I think I have a sneaking suspicion that's going to turn out to be a good hire. When's he going to miss one, guys? When's he going to miss one? So here's the thing. Yes, we're missing out on Ben McCullum. Do I think we'll get the best candidate that's available for us? I do. Do I know who that is? No, but I think Ren Baker does. And I haven't given up on his acumen or ability to hire a coach. It's just not how it is. It's a 1A, 1B scenario right now, isn't it? For me. It's Medved and it's Calhoun now. Maybe you throw Hodgson in there because it was recruiting. But here's the thing. I'm going to show you guys something I mentioned this yesterday. I'm going to show it to you again because I don't think a lot of people know about this. And if they do, they aren't talking about it. So let's share screen really quick so we can look at this. Let me go back. So this is Utah State inks its highest rated recruiting class in program history. This is Jared Calhoun 1 year into his job at Utah State. 17th rated class in the country, guys. Right? Here it is right here. 17th nationally according to 247 Sports. This is the highest rated class in program history, as well as the best in the Mountain Conference or Mountain West this year. It also includes 3 of the top 10 highest rated signees in program history. 3 of the top 10 ever for them. That's pretty dang good. 6-player class includes so you've got a 6'4" kid that is, what was he rated? I saw a couple of these guys are 4-star guys. It's not, I don't think it's showing that part. So here's the guy that is max preps prior. I don't have the exact rankings on them individually here. I thought it would say it in the reading of them, but you don't need the specifics of every player because we're not going to get every one of these guys, if any. I don't know if we'll get any of these guys, to be honest, y'all. But what I'm trying to get at here is Jared Calhoun can recruit, and that staff they have can recruit. That's just the way it is. So I think he's probably the favorite. If you're asking me for a betting favorite, I think we have to at least try to get Niko Medved. I think Niko Medved is a slightly better on-court coach. I don't know if he's a better recruiter, obviously, based on what that says. 17th, you've been at Utah State for 1 year and you get a top 20 class. That really blows me away. I'm just going to be honest. I can't be more impressed because that's a Mountain West. We can't get that here. We can't even get that at West Virginia. That recruiting class is higher than the one we had, albeit with a couple more players. And sometimes those recruiting rankings can be a little bit skewed because you bring in 6 guys. Of course, it's going to rank higher. But a couple of those are 4-star guys, probably mixed in with some 3-star guys, but I'm sure it's really good talent. So I think that Calhoun is probably, a lot of the fan base seems not to be happy with it based on a couple of factors. His defense hasn't been good at Utah State at times. And then also his Youngstown State record isn't great, right? Like you look at some of those records, some of those years, but he was building a program there and with no resources. I just don't factor it in. I don't factor it in as much personally, but I do understand the trepidation on that. I think you look at the Utah State. He had 1 year. He had to rebuild an entire roster pretty much. Although they had to bring in 7 new guys. I think they returned their leading scorer. So it's not like he didn't have anything, but like, I thought like he did a really good job there this year. They beat some pretty good teams. I think they beat a St. Mary's team. They beat some other teams that were pretty good. And then they got thumped in the tournament. It was his first time in the tournament, guys. I think a lot of coaches get out coached their first year in the NCAA tournament. I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I think Medved would be a great fit. I would be really happy with him. But I don't know if we can pull him away from Minnesota because, look, the Big Ten seems to be a little bit more desirable of a place to coach because you get the same benefits of coaching in the Big Ten as you do the Big 12, but it's an easier road. So if you're going to have the same NIL money, it's not the same anymore. You don't go to programs based off prestige anymore, right? If you're talking about everything is everything, West Virginia destroys both Minnesota and Iowa historically in basketball. But if you're telling me the NIL money is the same or similar, then that levels the playing field these days. It's not the same anymore. I don't know what else to say. So we're going to miss on some of these guys because the perceived gap that Ren Baker even spoke about himself in his press conference. $50 million in growing in revenue between Big 10 and Big 12 schools. And the gap is widening in a rev share era where rev share is going to be as important as NIL. So I think there's a lot to be worried about. I don't like to focus on it because one of my favorite sayings that I learned in recovery is, and you can steal this one if you want, focus goes, energy flows, right? Where my focus goes to, my energy flows into. So if I'm focusing on the negative, of course, I'm going to put my energy into the negative. So why not focus on solutions and be solution oriented? Yes, the gap is wide for West Virginia. So how can we survive in a unique situation like we've always done? We have to do it, right? Let's go to a break really quick, guys. We'll come back on the other side. What's next for West Virginia basketball? Is it Medved? Is it Calhoun? Is it a mystery candidate? And what about those women playing the Tar Heels? Is this poetic justice in action? I think so. We'll talk about it all next on Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by none other than 5 Hour Energy, guys. We talk about 5 Hour Energy around here because daylight savings has snuck up on us again. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy does have your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through, whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day. 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Basketball madness is here right now, and I've been staying up late watching the tournament games, watched the BYU game, watched some other games last night that were really good late. So longer days for me. I don't know about you, but I sometimes want to get outside for a hike or a run. Maybe try some tropical bursts while you're out and about to power through that day. Head over to 5hourenergy.com to find 15 flavors, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12 or 24 pack delivered right to your door. Need one right meow? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store because they're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. All right, guys. So let's talk women's ball just for a quick sec. I think it's poetic justice that the women face the North Carolina Tar Heels and won a game against Columbia, against a really good Columbia team, a Columbia team that beat a Power 5 school in Washington on the way to play the Mountaineers. I went and rewatched the Columbia game right before the women's game yesterday or day before, whenever this was. And really was kind of scared of a couple of the girls they had. Celia, Kitty, a couple of the other girls they had on that team were really good. Weiss from 3 was really good. I like that Columbia team. I think they've got something. They've got a good coach. I think they've got a bright future at Columbia. I really do. So anyway, if she stays, I mean, that's her alma mater, but I think they've got a really good basketball coach there. That coach is a similar style as West Virginia too. So obviously West Virginia just had better athletes. I don't think Mark Kellogg really outcoached Megan. What's her name? I can't remember her last name. But I do think that West Virginia just had better players. It was a very, very competitive game at times, but West Virginia basically dominated the game because Jordan Harrison was so good in this game, and so was J.J. Quinterly. What a good guard duo we have, obviously, and do we get exposed on the board sometimes as women? Yes, we do. But, man, what a team we've got this year as a 6 seed, guys. And poetic justice on tomorrow, the 24th, at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Carmichael Arena, West Virginia is a 1.5-point favorite over the North Carolina Tar Heels. And look, like I said, you look at what JJ and Jordan did. Both had 23 points in the last game and really just so good at picking up steals for this and all that. West Virginia outscoring their opponents about 20 points per game, which is like a plus 651 scoring differential. Pretty dang good. 75.9 points per game, which is top 40 in the league. They've also got a top 40 defense, which you win national championships based off that. J.J. Quinterly just surpassed 2,000 points for her career. Congrats to her. We've had her on the show here. We're going to try to do another NIL deal with her and definitely Jordan Harrison. We've also had Destiny Agabata on the show. Love all those girls, man. North Carolina is a good offensive team as well. Not as good as West Virginia, though. And I think, you know, obviously Maria Gading is a really good player. We'll see. We'll see exactly what happens in this game. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think the universe is going to give us a gift and have these women win this game. I think West Virginia women win the game. I think they're going to be motivated because of what happened to the men. Then that's going to be if I'm Mark Kellogg, you use what happened to the men and you put that on the bulletin board for these women and say, let's go take it into our own hands and take it to Bubba Cunningham's Carolina team. Bubba, we're going to be yelling for you, buddy, if this happens. I've been yelling for Bubba all across social media, but he won't respond to me. So pretty interesting stuff. So let's move on here. Love the women. What's next for West Virginia basketball? It's an interesting conversation. I definitely think, there are a few ways you could go here. Like I said, I've said multiple times, you can go no name. You can go, kind of like what I consider to be very, very a safe hire in Nico Medved. I think he would be not only is he a safe hire, but I think he'd be a great hire as well. I really do. I love Nico Medved and the kind of athletes he brings on defense for sure. But now that he is out of the running as far as Ben McCollum goes, who else besides those top two guys should West Virginia look at? Because maybe you look past the Calhoun, maybe you look past the Medved, or you just kind of realize that you can't get him. Because look, they're playing for a spot in the Sweet 16. You don't know if they're going to beat Maryland, but they're certainly capable of beating Maryland, right? So I don't know. I mean, look, you look at the updates from Minnesota websites, they link him to West Virginia and Minnesota. So it's not exactly clear. So who are some other guys that you look at and say, who would West Virginia possibly hire if you don't feel like, maybe you feel like Calhoun's not the guy, or maybe you feel like you can't get Medved? Who else can you look at? Well, there's a couple guys. I think Ross Hodge, which I think Jordan or somebody in the chat mentioned earlier. Obviously Ren Baker has a history with North Texas. So that was thought to maybe possibly discourage a search for their coach. And that turns out not to be the case. Sounds like they probably already had some conversations. He's been in the Division I for 2 seasons, and he's been in the AAC, which is a pretty good basketball conference, for 2 seasons, right? He had to replace his top 4 scorers after both seasons, guys. So, and he did it with transfers, which is what you want in this era. So I think he's a guy you look at. I don't know what else you want to say about Hodge. He's a great defensive guy. And I think, that's one of the main things that goes against Calhoun is Ren Baker looks deeply into the analytics, right? And if you're not a good defensive team, that smells bad, because Ren doesn't, at least by his nature in the past, hire guys that have bad defenses. So I think, you could definitely look at Ross Hodge. You could look at Alan Huss at High Point. He's been the Big South Conference Coach of the Year. He's been to had a regular season title there. He's been a runner-up there. He's had a runner-up finish in the CBI. 56-14 overall there, which is a good record. 27-5 in conference play the last 2 seasons, according to Mike Casazza. So a lot going on there too. There's a lot of guys. Like I said, Brian Hodgson is a guy that, I mentioned him yesterday on the show. I think if there's one thing about the Arkansas State coach that I like, it's his recruiting acumen. Maybe he's the best recruiter on the list. He came up under Nate Oates. We know that. Anything connected to Nate Oates is pretty good. So I'll take it for sure, right? Alabama's in a great spot with Nate Oates. Number 2 by 247 in 2023 recruiter in the country. And very similar play style to the Alabama Crimson Tide. So a fun style, a fun style. I don't know what's going to happen. And I know I've said that multiple times. I just don't have a read on this one. Last year, it got down to Byington and DeVries really quick, and that's just kind of where it was. Well, I don't know about this one. I think you could look at it one of two ways. It's smoke screens and Calhoun's the guy, or it's smoke screens and Calhoun or Medved are the guys. Maybe Medved and Calhoun are this year's Byington and DeVries. And I don't know which one is which, to be honest. I guess if you had to ask me, I would probably say, gosh, it's hard. It's tough because the one thing, let's go to a quick break and I'll give you my next point on. I mean, listen, there's more to Jared Calhoun than just Jared Calhoun. There is a whole slew of former coaches, players, the West Virginia ties that a lot of people hate, some people love, that could come along with this hire. We're going to talk about those next. This episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by Game Time. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. And there's nothing like experiencing a big game in person, is there? Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's why Game Time comes in and makes it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unforgettable prices. Game Time Picks makes curation easier to find better value for great seats to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Checking the Game Day app, there are amazing deals and some huge matchups coming up. The lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you can find a better deal. And then you have peace of mind because with seat views before you buy, there are no surprise fees and lowest price guarantee. You can book your tickets with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. And download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And ask yourself the question of questions. What time is it? It's game time. All right, guys, let me get another drink here. I've got some mouth dryness going on here. Okay. I think one of the things about Calhoun that intrigues me, but also worries me in a way, somebody texted me earlier and said, hey, Calhoun isn't just Calhoun, right? Like I mentioned yesterday, Bob Huggins, that's the obvious one. Bob Huggins obviously and Calhoun are very close. Calhoun came up under Hugs. And so there is the possibility, albeit like 1%. You never know what could happen. Maybe they could figure out a way to bring Hugs on staff as a defensive guy, right? And help fix that defense. I think that'd be a great idea personally. I think if you could sell me on Bob Huggins as an assistant, which will probably never happen. I'm not saying it would. And I'm not saying the university would do it either. This is just a way big hypothetical. I would take Calhoun if you could bring Hugs with him as a defensive, just an advisor, right? Not the head coach, not making all the decisions. But it would be too much of a shadow, unfortunately, for Calhoun, and Hugs would get all the attention. It's not feasible to happen. But he can help him with fundraising and all that kind of stuff and give him advice. I do believe that's great. Some people think it's not. Some people think he should just stay away. I understand that too. But there's a slew of other guys, man, that you bring up. And could you bring in a Jordan McCabe, a guy that is on the verge of getting – he's got a lot going on, man. Let's see what Jordan McCabe is doing now. I know he was with Wisconsin Green Bay. Did he get a let's see. He's not the head coach, is he? I totally forgot what he's doing. Let's see. Coaching career. Yeah, he's an assistant coach for Green Bay still under Sundance Winds, who left to become the head coach of Wyoming. Yeah, so Doug Gottlieb kept him on. I wasn't sure. Doug Gottlieb kept him on, but McCabe is another guy that gets mentioned for head coaching jobs sometimes, right? Like he's already a superstar. He's a rising star. Jordan McCabe will be a head coach in the next 5 to 8 years for sure. Would you bring a McCabe on staff now that he's got some experience? I think he would be a good possible choice. And listen, any coach could do that, but these West Virginia ties do matter when it comes to coaching decisions. Could you bring a Darius Nichols on as an associate head coach, or could you bring on maybe bring back a Josh Eilert as an associate and help him with maybe he helps with defense? Could you bring back a Jake Kuntz as the GM who only gave us the number one class that year before he was let go? There are a lot of different avenues you can explore with this and some fun you can have, just kind of like spitballing some names. But ultimately, that's not the reason you hire the guy. So I think there's a lot to it. I don't know what will happen with it. I think if you ask me who I want, I'll say Medved, but I won't be mad at Calhoun, and I can actually really get sold on him, especially if you tell me some of the ins and outs of what's going on. So there's a lot to it, man, and I'm excited about it. Unfortunately, we missed out on Ben McCullum, but I think West Virginia still has some options out there we can get excited about, guys. So let's get excited about them. Let's not be too negative, and we'll talk about some more later, but let's watch as the day unfolds. Maybe we've got a coach before the end of the day. Maybe it's in the next 24 to 48 hours, but we're going to keep a lock on this. I will go live here later again, probably around 5 or 6, to talk more about the day and see what's happened. Some more stuff should open up as the day comes along, and we'll talk about it then. Have a great Sunday, and I'll see you in a couple hours. I'm out of here.